Hello, Toon Army. What a brilliant day it is to be talking about our magnificent Newcastle United, the best team in the world. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and are as excited as I am to dive into some proper Newcastle United discussion. I've got some cracking news to share with you today that's got me absolutely buzzing. Two stories that are really getting the Newcastle faithful talking, and I can't wait to get your thoughts on them. What do you think about the possibility of James Mcatee joining our beloved Magpies for $25 million? Especially if it means we might see some changes in our midfield setup. And here's the big one that's really got me thinking. How would you feel if Liverpool came back in for Anthony Gordon with an $80 million bid? Particularly when we're hearing the club might prefer selling him over losing players like Tino Livramento or Alexander Isak. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm dying to hear what the Toon Army makes of all this. Right then, lads and lasses, let's dive straight into this James Mcatee situation, because it's got me proper excited about what could be coming this summer. According to Sky Sports, we're looking at potentially bringing in the Manchester City midfielder for around $25 million, and honestly, this could be exactly the kind of smart business we need to be doing. Now, I'll be straight with you. When I first heard about this, I was scratching my head a bit. We've already got some quality in midfield, with Bruno Guimaraes pulling the strings, like the absolute maestro he is. Sandro Tonali bringing that Italian class back into the side, and Big Joe Jolinton doing what he does best, being an absolute unit in the middle of the park. Add in Sean Longstaff's work rate, young Lewis Miley's promise, and Joe Willock's versatility, and you'd think we're pretty well stocked, wouldn't you? But here's where it gets interesting, and this is why I love Eddie Howe's thinking. The gaffer knows we need depth, proper depth, if we're going to compete on multiple fronts next season. It's been far too long since we've brought in a first-team ready signing. We're talking about going back to the summer of 2023. That's mental when you think about it. We've been asking Eddie to perform miracles with essentially the same squad, season after season. And while he's done brilliantly, you can't keep expecting that level of magic without giving him the tools he needs. The key detail here is that we'd only move for Mcatee if there are departures in midfield, and that makes perfect sense. Joe Willock's name keeps getting mentioned in connection with Crystal Palace, and if he does move on, then bringing in someone like Mcatee starts to look like genius business. The lad's only 22, he's got Premier League experience with City, and let's be honest, anyone who's been around Pep Guardiola's setup is going to understand football at the highest level. What I love about this potential signing is that it fits perfectly with our new transfer strategy. We're looking for 4 players this summer: a goalkeeper, a striker, a centre-back, and a right winger. But we're being smart about it. We're not just throwing money around like some clubs do. We're being strategic, and Mcatee represents exactly the kind of signing that could give us real quality without breaking the bank. Think about it. $25 million for a player who's been developed in one of the best academies in world football, who understands the intensity of the Premier League, and who's still young enough to grow with our project. That's the kind of business that gets me excited about where we're heading as a club. The fact that he can operate in central midfield means he'd give Eddie more options tactically. We've seen how important it is to have players who can come in and maintain our standards when injuries hit or when we need to rotate during busy periods. With European football potentially on the horizon again, having someone like Mcatee in the squad could be the difference between having a good season and having a great one. And let's not forget, this is Newcastle United we're talking about. We're a club that's going places, and talented young players like Mcatee should be looking at what we're building here and thinking they want to be part of it. St James Park, on a European night, the atmosphere, the passion of the Toon Army, There's nowhere else like it in world football. Right, let's tackle the elephant in the room. The Anthony Gordon situation with Liverpool. Now, I'll be honest with you. This one's got me feeling a bit conflicted, and I reckon most of you will be feeling the same way after reading about this. $80 million price tag, and Liverpool's continued interest. First things first. Anthony Gordon is one of our own now, isn't he? The lad's been absolutely brilliant for us since arriving from Everton, and watching him develop into a proper Newcastle player has been one of the highlights of recent seasons. That 29-23-24 campaign, where he bagged 12 goals and 16 assists in 48 games. Absolutely magical. The way he'd glide past defenders, create something out of nothing, and give us that cutting edge we'd been missing for years. It was pure class. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is where we need to think with our heads as well as our hearts. According to Team Talk, if Newcastle were forced into a position where they had to sell one of their star players, the club would actually prefer to let Gordon go rather than lose Alexander Isak or Tino Livramento. Now, before you start shouting at your screens, hear me out on this one. From a purely footballing perspective, you can understand the logic. Alexander Isak is our main goal scorer, the man who's been carrying our attack and showing exactly why we fought so hard to bring him from Real Sociedad. When he's fit and firing, he's unplayable. The kind of striker who can single-handedly change games and seasons. Losing him would leave a massive hole in our attack that would be incredibly difficult and expensive to fill. Then there's Tino Livramento, and what a signing he's been. The lad's been nothing short of sensational at right back, giving us pace, defensive solidity, and an attacking threat down that flank that we haven't had for years. With Manchester City sniffing around him, you can see why the club would want to keep hold of someone who could be our right back for the next decade. Now, about Gordon's recent form. Let's be fair here. This past season hasn't been his best, has it? 9 goals and 7 assists in 42 games, compared to his previous season's numbers, tells its own story. But here's the thing, class is permanent, and we all know what Anthony Gordon is capable of when he's at his best. Sometimes players have off seasons, especially when they're still young and developing their game. The $80 million price tag that's being mentioned is absolutely mental money, isn't it? That's the kind of sum that could transform our entire squad if used wisely. Think about what we could do with that money. We could potentially solve multiple positions, bring in the striker we desperately need, strengthen our defense, and still have change left over. It's the kind of money that could take us from being a good team to being a genuine top 4 contender. But here's what really gets me about this whole situation. Gordon himself seems committed to Newcastle United. After our final game of the season, the lad said he was looking forward to next season at Newcastle. That doesn't sound like someone who's got one foot out the door, does it? That sounds like a player who believes in what Eddie Howe is building here, who wants to be part of our journey back to the top. And let's be realistic about Liverpool's interest. They nearly got him in 2024, didn't they? But we managed to keep hold of him by selling Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minte instead. It shows that when push comes to shove, we're willing to make difficult decisions to keep our best players. The question is whether that resolve will hold. If Liverpool come back with an $80 million offer that's too good to refuse. The truth is, at some point, every club has to make these kinds of decisions. Even Liverpool themselves cashed in on Philippe Coutinho and used that money to build a squad that won the Premier League and Champions League. Sometimes selling a star player can actually make your team stronger overall if you reinvest the money wisely. But this is Newcastle United we're talking about. the best team in the world. We're not a selling club anymore. We've got ambitious owners, a brilliant manager, and a fan base that deserves to see our best players staying and helping us achieve great things. Anthony Gordon on his day is unplayable, and when he's running at defenders with that pace and trickery, there are few better sights in football. The key thing here is that we're not under any financial pressure to sell. Our PSR situation is looking healthy, and we don't need to cash in on our assets just to balance the books. If Gordon goes, it should be because it's the right decision for the long-term future of Newcastle United, not because we're forced into it. Well, that's all from St. James's Park for today, lads and lasses. These are the kinds of decisions that will shape our future, and whatever happens, I trust that Eddie Howe and the club will make the right choices for Newcastle United. Keep supporting the best team in the world. Keep that passion burning, and I'll be back with more updates soon. The future's bright when you're black and white. Away the lads!